I'm going to very quickly cover three primary aspects to my presentation. I want to talk about, at perhaps a higher level, the importance of engagement, particularly in the context of Western democracies and the element of trust. In terms of engagement, engagement is good, but for me, there's a bit of a so what factor, and I'd like to actually touch in on the concept around trust and the important role that engagement can play, and I think will need to play in Western democracies of tomorrow. I'll talk a little bit about the Local Government Act review and finish up with some reflections on what we're looking to achieve through the new Local Government Act, which we're hoping to have the draft exposure bill out before the end of this year. And it is calling for a new approach as a key principle of the Act around engagement. So I'll touch very quickly in on that as well. I came across this slide very recently. It's a quote out of Deloitte Access Economics report of 2015 titled "The Purpose of Place Reconsidered, Rebuilding the Lucky Country." It's a very comprehensive perspective. It's a very economic development perspective, but it actually went to the essence, in my mind, about governing and those being governed. And that was about this concept of trust and its importance. And I know you can read it on the screen there, but it goes to the fact that engagement requires effective participation, which builds trust, and that trust is essential to winning the consent of the governed, and especially for long-term planning and policy decisions. And obviously the rate capping environment is a very key component of that. The element that I want to really highlight here, though, is the importance of trust in as a consequence of effective engagement. And just to really, I suppose, touch in on where we're at in terms of Western democracies and other democracies, actually, and the whole issue of trust. If I can go to this slide, which is, in my mind, a fairly reliable piece of work that has been recently produced by the Edelman consulting firm, and it's looking at the whole concept of trust in institutions. And if you can, in terms of the bar, the blue is those who are regarded as trustors. The grey is neutral, and those that appear in green are regarded as trustors, and that means that 50% of people are not trusting of institutions. Now, this compares 2016 against 2017, and you can see that those countries that are falling into generally an environment of distrust has grown quite substantially, and of course Australia is part of that as well. So that's trust in institutions, suggesting high levels of distrust and suggesting a trend which is not positive. The same survey goes to trust in government, and again you can see this is in a different format, I appreciate, but this is actually indicating levels of trust and the respective movements from 2016 to 2017. And in Australia, the level of trust in government is something like 37, which was an 8% decline from 2016. If we go to another look at how is trust faring, this assessment, again, this is from the Edelman survey of 2017. The top category is levels of assessed trust, and that's from a group that's assessed as between 25 and 64, higher income and higher educated, compared to that cohort of the community that does not fit into that category. And you can see that whilst there is a higher level of trust in those that perhaps are more affluent, better educated in that age group 25 to 64, certainly those who don't fit into that category have a discernible higher level of distrust. The point there for me is we are seeing quite a substantial level of disengagement in a substantial cohort of our population, and this gap between those who perhaps are more affluent, better informed, compared to those who are not, in fact, is growing as well. And I just highlight, because for me that is something of a substantial trend. So the concept of trust and its relationship or its consequence with engagement, for me, for those who are responsible for governing and for the fulfilment and satisfaction of those being governed, is a real and serious issue that I think that all governments in particularly the Western world, of which Australia is very much not immune from these findings, is really important. Local Government Victoria was part of the VARGO report that was released in April or May this year, and they looked at 5 key projects that Local Government Victoria had pursued in recent times: the review of the Local Government Act, which I'll talk about a little bit more, the Local Government Performance Reporting Framework, which Ron referred to earlier, the development of our Aboriginal Action Plan, the Model Financial Report, and the last one that I want to highlight is the Geelong Citizens Jury. Before I go to the Citizens Jury, VARGO assessed, if we look at our IAP2 spectrum here, that 4 of those projects certainly spanned across the consult to collaborate spectrum. But the last, and which we're really proud of, the Geelong Citizens Jury, was our really first foray into deliberative engagement, which sat very squarely in the empowerment side of the spectrum from IAP2. So the Citizens Jury was essentially an opportunity to form a group of representative people from the Geelong community, 100 people. They were given the task to recommend to the government what is the best governance model for the Geelong City Council for the future. And the Minister gave an absolute commitment that whatever the jury come up with, she would actually present to the Parliament, which happened, and the government accepted all but one of their recommendations, which was accepted in part, and that actually is now in legislation, and the election of Geelong of this weekend is actually built on the model recommended by the Geelong Citizens Jury. I know we've got Keith, and I saw Ian here somewhere. Ian, so Keith's from Mosaic, Ian's from New Democracy Foundation. They actually managed, facilitated, led the Geelong Citizens Jury process for us, and it has been an outstanding success. So we have dabbled into empowerment, and I have to say, through the Local Government Act review, this has actually given us some confidence about a new way of councils to think about engaging communities to build future trust. And I'll touch on that again just before I finish. My colleagues from DPC, I think, are going to talk about Engage Victoria, so I won't go there. The Local Government Act review has been a 4-year program, and we're well advanced now. As I said, we're hopeful of having an exposure draft out by the end of this year. 2015 was really about getting the ideas together to generate ideas, and we did that by engaging across a number of community forums and forums with mayors and CEOs, informed by a number of key papers, particularly written by academics, to actually stimulate ideas. And through that process, we encouraged submissions, got over 300 odd submissions, in the discussion paper. And from that, we actually built what was called a directions paper. So the directions paper was released in 2016, another opportunity for a whole range of consultation opportunities, including the forums, engaging peak associations, individual councils, unions, ratepayers associations. Again, informed by a document which was evidence-based, and again, the government was very keen to hear from as many people as possible and to take those learnings. We've then moved into this year, the writing of the bill, and to make sure that we're again engaging the community and making sure that it's actually tested with the community so that it has some resonance when we finally come out with a piece of legislation. We engaged 7 technical working groups, nearly 100 technical experts across the sector. Again, peak organisations, individual councils, groups of councils, stakeholder meetings, and we did 4 focus sessions as well with citizens groups. The exposure draft, as I said, will be out before Christmas. Another opportunity for consultation and feedback into the process. Likely we'll be doing another round of forums, engaging the sector, the community and peak organisations as well. VAGO, whilst they indicated to us that Local Government Victoria has done some pretty good things in terms of better forms of engagement, clearly VAGO left it with Local Government Victoria to take a stronger role to support and encourage councils in better practice public participation. We're using that and some of the learnings that we've gained along the way to build into our thinking around the Local Government Act. So the Local Government Act review will have as one of its key principles, we're looking to strip out as much prescription as we can and to have it as a principles-based act. One of the principles will be effective community engagement. And we will be calling for higher levels and new forms of engagement around key strategic pieces, the longer-term community plan, the 4-year council plan, and the annual budget. And the annual budget is likely to be calling for a longer-term financial period over which the budget will be required. So whilst we are removing a lot of prescription, we are looking to councils through the new Local Government Act to be more creative, find new ways of better engaging communities, particularly around those key strategic pieces of the long-term community plan, the 4-year council plan and the budget process. So hopefully when you see the exposure draft, you will see that new forms of engagement, new ways of engaging our communities, hopefully to build trust, hopefully to build better confidence, and for the communities, importantly, to have a higher level of value ascribed to the great work that councils do day in, day out.